Right. Welcome. I'm going to hand it over to Diane Hall with AARP and let her get us started.
Well, thank you, Leslie. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Downsize for Good. I'm Diane Hall. I work for AARP's Missouri State Office right here in Kansas City. And although it's a little bit rainy and ugly today here in the Kansas City area, if you're like me and you're feeling it's kind of springtimey, you might be thinking about spring cleaning, maybe doing a little clearing out of some of the things that you don't need, maybe making your home feel a little bigger, not so small or messy, or maybe both. And that's why AARP here in Kansas City is pleased to sponsor this webinar, Downsize for Good, featuring Leslie Scott from Re.Useful, who's also right here in Kansas City. Leslie, for people who don't know, can you share with our participants a little bit about what kind of organization Re.Useful is and the kind of major things that you do? And you're muted.
It's not a webinar if you don't get to say that. So, as Diane said, I am the founder of Reuseful, and we are a nonprofit organization that helps people find a place for their still good stuff, whether that's a nonprofit organization, a school, or a church. And we do that in a few ways, and we're gonna dig into that a little bit more, but that's basically who we are.
Well, and from her brief description, you wouldn't believe the breadth of the kind of work that Reuseful does. And I don't know how I didn't know about them before, but we learned about them last year, and we have started working together for decluttering and shredding things, and I'm very excited about that. So I'm sorry, I took your thunder. Go ahead, Leslie.
No, 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 no. I think we'll be able to get into the details there. So I want to give you plenty of time just to go over why we're really here today.
Well, so Leslie's going to talk about the more practical stuff, and I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the AARP angle, but I'm going to let AARP. I'm going to let Leslie talk about kind of the more practical stuff first. So go for it, Leslie.
Absolutely. So the sad reality is you can't take your stuff with you. And you don't want your loved ones to feel like this, where they're just buried in stuff. And so I unfortunately lost my neighbor a couple of years ago. If she had one of something, she had four of them. And her daughter came up from Atlanta, and unfortunately, she had a health condition that prevented her from really being able to be active in the cleaning out of her mother's house. So I went over there every evening for weeks, cleaning out her house, because what I also didn't want to happen was for her daughter to sell the house as is, have the new owner back up a big dumpster and take all of her mother's still very good stuff and toss it into the dumpster just because it was convenient. And so we spent a lot of time cleaning out that house and really trying to pack it up and distribute it to organizations that could then put those items to good use. So I think you don't necessarily have to have a ton of clutter to really feel like it can be a little overwhelming. So we're going to dig in here to understanding why we have stuff, and that just enables us to then be able to let it go. So Simplicana is a Kansas City area organizing company. We were blessed with them doing a webinar with us for Earth Day a few years ago, and they went over what they call this Sinister Six. I identify with so many of these. And so, the first one is this item has potential. I might use it for something someday. And so I want to keep it because you never know when I'm going to be wanting to use it or needing to use it. So we just keep it around just in case. then, there's also those items that we paid for. And the fact that we have a sunk cost into it, it may not be all that much money, or it may be a really costly item, and we don't want to get rid of it because we invested that financial amount into it, and you just don't want to necessarily get rid of it because, again, you may use it. There's a lot of crossover in these Sinister Six, and I already paid for it. I already, spent money on it. It could be things that really you have as part of your identity. Years ago, I really decided I was going to collect things with irises on them. And I had so many iris things, and people would give me iris things. I have a friend who collected elephant things, and she's just like, don't give me anything else that has an elephant on. I can't have one more thing. So you end up with these things that had a love for, and then it just got out of control. So that's part of your identity. Other people identify you with those things. That could be sports, it could be anything. Then there's this sense of obligation, like somebody gave me this gift. I don't use it, but I don't want them to feel bad that it's not around when they come over, or it's a project my kids or my grandkids made in art class, or whatever the case may be. You may have things just lying around that you feel like you just can't get rid of because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. And then, maybe it's something I just ran across. I know this is a silly thing, but my grandma used to make cornmeal mush for me, and I loved it. And she put the white Caro syrup in this syrup pitcher, and it was just such a memory for me. And I ran across that picture the other day, and I was like, I didn't even remember I had that. But when I saw it, it was like such a connection to my grandma. And I think that there's so many things that we have that we don't use, that are cluttering our space, or that we have in storage that we just keep because it reminds us of someone, and we just feel that fear that loss of connection. And then sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know who could take this, but I really wanted to go to the right place. I don't know where that might be. But I want to make sure that wherever it goes, it's going to be put to good use. And so I'm going to keep it around until the right friend can wear this sweater, or the right grandkid can take this for their new apartment, or whatever the case may be. And so these. Again, there's a lot of crossover with these, and this is oftentimes why we have a lot of stuff that's sitting around waiting really for someone else to be able to use it. And so now I'm going to hand it over to Diane, and she's going to talk about why AARP is in this space.
So thank you, Leslie. You might be wondering what AARP has to do with this. And Leslie's right. Those six sinister six things, I identify with all of them. And I think most of us can identify with at least one of them. And AARP is in this space for a lot of reasons, but today I'm just going to talk about a few. First, because AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we want to empower Americans 50 plus and older to choose how they age. And your stuff has a lot to do with that. According to our research, people want to age in their own homes. And as part of my job as outreach director for AARP, Kansas City or Missouri or whatever, it's to help people get connected with the resources they need to help them age where they want to age in their own homes and do it safely. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard the statistic that 10,000 people a day turn 65 every day in the United States, right? So right now, I believe about 15% of America is over age 65. In 40 years, that's going to more than double to like 33% of Americans being over age 65. brace yourselves. That's going to make the largest, most powerful buying group in America. We don't need to be buying more stuff. Just saying. But right now, and likely for the last time, we have 4 generations that are alive at the same time. And you can see them there on that slide. And now you're going, Diane is wandering all over the place. But wait, I am going to tie this all together for you. 2 of those generations that you're seeing on that screen, my parents' generation, the silent generation, and my generation, the boomers, we have the most stuff and the most attachment to our stuff. We buy into that Sinister Six stuff all over the place. We treasure those family heirlooms. We have those extra things just in case, or we hang on to stuff because they might be still good or they might be useful to somebody, if not for us. So we really hang on to our stuff. But the Gen Xers and the millennials you see up there, that are kids, our grandkids, our nieces and nephews, they don't want our stuff. So we end up hanging on to it, waiting for that perfect opportunity. So next slide, please. So now, why does all of that matter? Well, people my age and older, because we really value our stuff, but as those 10,000 people a day keep turning 65 add up, more and more of us are going to be requiring health care. And we want to stay in our own homes. And we prefer to get our health care at home if we can. Plus, it's more cost effective to be cared for at home. And even if we want to downsize, there's not a lot of housing stock out there that allows us to do that. But the biggest reason that our attitudes about stuff by the various generations kind of matter is that the number one thing that impedes people from leaving their homes to downsize or from getting healthcare into their homes is the stuff. There's like surveys behind that. And when I think about this, I think about my Aunt Mary. Now, Aunt Mary was an interesting character on many levels, but she was a fiercely independent woman. She grew up in the Depression. She outlived outloved probably as well, 4 husbands, and was still sharp and driving at age 87. She had downsized her residence, but not her stuff. God bless her. And she lived down the block from my parents when she broke a hip. The ambulance crew could not get a gurney to her in her house because of the clutter. Now, my clutter isn't that bad, and I doubt, or at least I hope, yours isn't either. But I have, on occasion, not had people into my house because the clutter made my house feel too messy or just not presentable for company. Clutter can be that thing that stands between you and socialization. God forbid it stands between you and the gurney getting to you if you've had a fall or something bad happened to you. After Aunt Mary broke her hip, my dad and I had to go into Aunt Mary's house, which, by the way, we hadn't been into for several years because she wouldn't let us in because of the clutter. And we had to start doing some serious purging because she wouldn't be allowed to go home because a walker couldn't get around her house. And there was no chance for Aunt Mary to say which things were the most important or where she wanted them to go, because that's the one thing that we all want to do. We want to make sure that our stuff goes somewhere good. So that's another reason AARP is here today. We want to have you, help you connect to the tools that let you choose how you age. And that includes staying in your home as long as you can, as safely as you can. And there are a lot of components to that. Clutter is just one of them. And connecting you with Re.Useful and their on Dumpster Day, which is amazing, is just one of those things that helps you feel good about getting rid of your stuff. But there's another one that is also important to AARP and why we're showing up today. Next slide. Fraud prevention. You can't choose how to live as you age without some financial security, and that means protecting your assets. Fraud prevention is one of AARP Kansas City's priorities. You don't need me to tell you that shredding your personal information and sensitive documents is important. However, if you don't do it, you're open to identity fraud and identity theft. It can be challenging sometimes, though, to get that done. It can also be expensive sometimes to get that done, depending. You may have a lot of old files. You may have years and years of tax returns. Those definitely need to be shredded. Or you may be like me and you just obsessively file everything, and then that paperwork piles up. Or you may not file it at all and it may pile up. So part of decluttering is decluttering that paper. I'm sorry, I'm having flashbacks to my Aunt Mary, who had piles of newspapers that she was going to read someday. Fortunately, those were not sensitive, but a lot of times things are stacked all together. So when you declutter, you kind of have to sort through and take out those sensitive things that have your personal information to protect yourself from identity theft and fraud. So that's one of the reasons AARP Kansas City is supporting Reusables on Dumpster Days, because it will offer free paper shredding. And that's important for us to provide to the community in our fight against fraud. And AARP has lots more fraud prevention resources at aarp.org/fraud. But remember, when you're decluttering, don't just throw out all the old papers. Sort out that personal and sensitive information for the shredding. And I know just saying, just do this makes it sound like, oh, it's really easy. But you and I know from personal experience, it's not easy to declutter. So what do you do if you need more help? Next slide. There we go. There is more help available. Now, you're the very first to know, besides the gal who's going to send out the email to everybody else, because I told her already, that we're going to be having a downsizing and decluttering workshop here in our office in Kansas City on March 29th. And we're also going to be running a sweepstakes to promote both our workshop and Reusables on Dumpster Day on April 6th. So you can enter that for a chance to win $100 gift cards. There's going to be 3 winners for that. We hope that our workshop and sweepstakes will highlight some of the resources that AARP has, as well as others like Reuseful, to help you choose how you age, to give you that power to make sure that you are in charge of how and where you age with dignity and purpose. And I'm going to turn it back over to Leslie to go back to more of the practical, and I will put the link to the sweepstakes in the chat, and please feel free to share that. And I get to say you're on mute again. I'm so excited.
No. Bonus. Thank you so much, Diane, for that. In the pandemic, the idea of decluttering really started to become more popular, I would say. One of the earlier popular things on Netflix was the tidying up with Marie Kondo. So the question was, does it spark joy? And then you may or may not know that there was a TV show on Peacock, Amy Poehler, if you ever watched Parks and Rec, she produced a show here in Kansas City. Everybody who was on the show lived here in the Kansas City area on the gentle art of Swedish deck cleaning. And so the first season was filmed here, and it was a very emotional series, I would say, but really heartwarming and really provided a lot of great tips. And so I recommend that. Of course, Peacock does require a subscription, so take that for what it's worth. But it really is a lovely show. The 3 people are actually Swedish, and so it's really fun to watch them sort of discover some American ways of doing things. And so all that, inspiration for decluttering, then, when you have those piles of things that you decide you don't need anymore, they've got to go somewhere, right? And that perfectionism, that control, I've got to find just the right place to take this, or, just really having the mindset of, something sitting around, it's not serving the purpose that it was created to fulfill. And so how do you find a way to connect with people who can really make good use of an item? And so that is where we come in, and you can go to reusable.org and find a place for your stuff. So I'm just going to go very quickly through this and show you how the site works. So we have currently 86 nonprofits, 7 schools, and 4 churches. So we're really, amassed a lot of great, worthy places for your stuff to go. And when you click on donate on the homepage, then it's going to take you to this donation center. One thing I wanted to just draw your attention to is these check boxes at the top. You're going to have to check whether you want the charity to pick up your items, whether you're going to drop them off, or you can check both of those boxes, and that's going to give you organizations that will work with you on either way to collect those items. And then these check boxes just help you narrow down further how you want to give. So some people are perfectly fine with organizations that resell the items, and some people would prefer that they go directly to a person or pet. And so you can make that checkbox empty if you prefer not to include those organizations that are going to resell the items. The organizations we have that do have a resale option are going to use that money then to fund their programs. So one of the most well-known might be Big Brothers Big Sisters, or Habitat for Humanity, Goodwill, those sorts of organizations. Again, some people might have a preference around faith-based organizations, so you can choose how you'd like to have those organizations included or not. Then down here in the bottom space, you're just going to select the kinds of items you have. And you may have multiple different kinds of items, and what's going to happen then once you do that is that you're going to indicate if you have any specific kind of organization you want to support. Some people have experienced things in their life that make them want to support specific kinds of organizations. Maybe someone has been housing insecure in the past, so that's something that they really want to support, or are a survivor of domestic violence or know someone who is, and so that's a particular cause they care about. So you can select any, and you're going to get everyone, or you can specify the specific types of organizations that you'd like to support. Then after you do that, you'll click that view results, and you'll get a page that has a listing of all the organizations that are going to take one or more of those kinds of items you indicated you have. So you're going to have the link to their website, whether or not they offer pickup or drop-off service. So you can see Adelante Thrift accepts items both dropped off, and they will pick them up. Veronica's Voice, on the other hand, doesn't offer pickup service, so there's that red X next to the pickup there. You can get directions to drive to the organization, and then you can also call them and get more information. So you can click on that top link there, and that's going to give you a more detailed page. And once you do that, then you can click on that contact button once you find an organization that you want to contact. And then you're going to get this contact form, which enables you to send an email directly to the organization. And so they'll get that. The person who is the contact for the organization will receive that email and can respond to you. We say we're like Tinder, but we don't make the dinner reservation for you, which means that we are providing you with a great list of worthy organizations where you can give your stuff, but it's on you to arrange for that donation, as well as just to check in first to make sure that that organization it has room to store more of the items you have to give, and needs those at that particular moment. It can be difficult for organizations to kind of keep on top of updating their profiles, so we just recommend that you check in with them before you load your items up and take them over. So now we're going to have some time for some Q&A.
Well, it looks like we have one question already in the chat, and you partially answered it, I think. Nancy is asking, is there a charge for someone to pick up your stuff? And I'm assuming that if they say they're going to pick up and if there's a charge, it would say on the website.
Yes, so some organizations are going to offer the free pickup service. As everyone knows, I think I just saw that gas went up like 30 cents or something overnight. Um, and
Sorry.
so, there could be a charge, and that's a question that you'll definitely want to ask the organization when you contact them to see about picking up your items.
All right, this is your chance. Leslie knows all the good places. Here we go. Do you partner with the recyclespot.org site? It's very similar to yours.
It is very similar. The majority of the organizations on Recycle Spot really focus on composting, where you can drop off your oil, that sort of thing. There are some thrift stores on there, but for the most part, I would say it's a great place to understand where to take things that are still useful, that can be upcycled, like your food waste and that sort of thing. And we are definitely in conversations with the Mid-America Regional Council, which sponsors the recyclespot.org, to see how our work complements each other.
To me, it sounds like it really dovetails nicely. If stuff can still be used as it is, it's still in good shape, it should go to you. And if it can be used in another way, it sounds like it should go elsewhere. All right, here's another one.
I would say, the focus for ours is a lot of providing that direct giving versus reselling. We do have some organizations that are our charity partners who definitely fund programs through reselling items. But for the most part, we are focused on those organizations that can take those items and give them directly to a person or a pet. And then Nancy is saying somebody to come help. I would just say, we love our folks at Simplicana, and that would be one recommendation we could make. They definitely do make sure that items that are unwanted but still good definitely do go to a nonprofit school or church that can put it to good use. So they use our site, and that's certainly one. And then definitely would suggest you do a Google search and dig in more. Look at maybe some recommendations. There's nothing wrong if a company is really worth their salt, they're going to say, hey, I have some people you can reach out to just ask, like, how did it go for you? And so that's one thing I would recommend you do is, can you can you hook me up with some of your past clients who might be willing to talk about their experience? Um, yeah, and Diane, so I would say, the thing that we recommend is that if you wouldn't be proud giving something to a friend or family member, that, maybe the item might not be suitable to donate, but there are organizations, like one of our favorites is Flourish Furniture Bank, and they have volunteers who can spruce up your furniture, and maybe fix some upholstery and do some testing on small appliances that you might give. So, there are certainly organizations like that that are willing to take things that are in less than perfect condition, as long as they can limit the work that's done to a reasonable amount of investment, both from a time and supply perspective. There are going to be those places that are okay taking that, and I've seen some things that, like Habitat for Humanity, that would probably need a little work before somebody would be thinking they were living room ready, for instance.
Well, while you're talking about fixing things up, maybe you might want to talk a little bit about a preview of coming attractions for repair cafes.
Yeah, so we have a repair cafe. I think due to a menu issue, we're going to have to move that into May. So I'll have a date for that for sure in the next probably week or so. And the repair cafe, and I will just make a pitch for anyone who might have those kinds of skills that they may want to volunteer. We're looking for sewers and people with who like to take things apart and put them back together. I have a mixer, a hand mixer that I'm going to bring because there's a short in the cord and I just need that cord replaced, for instance. It's perfectly fine otherwise. And so these repair cafes are just designed so that you can bring an item in and have it fixed for free. And if you choose to donate a little bit in exchange for that service, that's certainly something that's available but not required. And we are going to try and keep more things out of the landfill and in circulation instead of tossing it and having to go buy another one at Target.
Well, and AARP, I'm safety girl. If you have something with kind of a faulty cord and you find yourself jiggling the plug to make it connect and whatever, that's not a safe thing to do. Getting
Mhm.
that repaired not only keeps it out of the landfill if you finally decide, oh, this is not safe, I better get rid of it, but it also protects you from, electrical shock, which can't be a good thing. There's a lot of good reasons to get and I don't know about y'all, but I remember when there used to be a small appliance repair shop, right? I don't see those anymore. And so we're a disposable society, which is unfortunate. All right, more questions.
Yeah, okay. So
Oh, good
Diane,
one.
a bummer because yes, we really are currently focused on the Kansas City area, but we do have plans to expand, and really, if you have connections where you live in Florida, feel free to reach out via our website. We would love to talk with you about that. And you really just need someone who is connected with the nonprofit community in any kind of area. And that is the primary need as we get those charity partners onboarded. And then, just let the community know about that resource. So again, let us know if you think you want to bring reuseful to your community in Florida.
Well, and I will say, AARP is nationwide. So
That's right.
we do have an office. We actually have several offices in Florida. And our downsizing and decluttering workshops are, I think, offered by most of the states. And I would be very surprised if the Florida State Office didn't offer it somewhere down there. So I would say contact the AARP Florida State Office in Florida and see if they are offering the decluttering workshops, because I would bet a nickel they are probably doing it. I don't know if it'd be in your area because Florida's a really big place. However,
Yes.
it's worth a shot. And I think, yeah, I think all the workshops, I know mine will have an excerpt like from the downsizing and decluttering book that's free. So it'll give you a little guide to work by, which can help. It's not as great as having Reuseful KC go, here are the 10 best places to take this thing, but it still would help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you can do a little bit of this, in a more manual kind of way. You can always, um, even potentially United Way might be a place to check in, see if they can help. So,
So Leslie, I've got a question.
mhm.
I'm gonna take personal privilege and ask you a question. How do you feel about those Facebook buy nothing groups?
Oh, I mean, I think as long as we keep things in circulation, it's great, because uh, I think the only downside is how tempting they can be for people who might be a collector of things.
Yeah.
So that could be the only downside there, but people, individuals need things as well, and so however people get the items they need, to be able to do what they need to do around the house. I think it's great. And, as long as those items are being exchanged in a safe way, and we're being mindful of that process, um, it's really our philosophy that keeping stuff in circulation, lowering the number of new items that we need to produce, which means less carbon footprint, for each of us, is a good thing.
Well, what made me think of that was it was Diane's question about people refusing to pick up less than perfect items. And
Mhm.
in the buy nothing group, I'm actually from one in my neighborhood. A lot of times there will be things that will be maybe a project for someone,
Right.
and people will take it on. I had a broken pottery thing, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody would want this, but and someone's like, oh yeah, I'm an artist, I'll use it for a mosaic. Oh, great. Here, take it. And I felt good about putting it somewhere that someone
Mhm.
was going to make something beautiful out of it, even though I'd kind of broken the beauty that I had out of it. So I think there are opportunities for that.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
and yes, Nancy, the information for the Repair Cafe will be on the AARP site. We will put it into our aarp.org/Kansas City website.
Yeah, and then you can find information on it from reuseful.org as well. Once again, I apologize about the delay. Sometimes, venues are just things happen, and so you have to make a pivot. That's where we are. What other questions do people have?
Now's your chance, everybody.
Okay. Well, you can keep dropping them in the chat if they occur to you, but I'm gonna move on to our last little bit of information. And that is about on dumpster day. So start your decluttering now. Get those bags and boxes all staged to be able to load them up in the car. April 6th, we're gonna have our dumpster day at South Broadland Presbyterian Church again. It's about 79th and Holmes for you Kansas City folks. And we are so grateful that AARP is our title sponsor for this event and providing that critical support we need to be able to bring this service to the community. So in addition to having our charity partners there to collect your still good stuff AARP is going to ensure we have that shredding truck there. And then in the off chance that you have tires that are sitting around, we'll also have a tire recycling truck there. So feel free to bring your still good stuff, and then also those confidential papers that you need to have shredded, and they will be shredded on site, thanks to the support of AARP. So with that, Diane, did you have any final thoughts?
Well, just a little bit more on dumpster day. Can you say a little bit more about the different kind of partners that are going to be? I know they're on your website because I've seen them, but to just give
Yeah.
people kind of an idea of the breadth of kinds of donations that are out there,
Oh my
will be
gosh.
there.
Yes. So I'm gonna.
And while you're doing that, I will tell a short story because my next door neighbor came to me and she said, "Honey, I just want to put this in your mind, maybe that we should have a yard sale for the block this spring." And she goes, "We all have stuff, whatever." I was like, "Oh, okay, well, let me think about it." And then we started this thing on the Undumpster Day, and we're sponsoring Undumpster Day. And so I sent that to her, and she said, "Honey, I hope you won't mind, but maybe we should change our mind about a yard sale." Because she thought it would be better to donate this stuff where it would go to someplace good than for us to go to all the bother to have a yard sale. So that's another way to pitch it as well, because we still have a lot of good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And Nancy has a great question in the chat. I'm just going to wrap up on dumpster day, and we'll get to, what is it we can do then to let go of our things. So, anything from clothing, books to appliances, uh, records. Sometimes we have record collections that we, haven't looked at. Um, I I know some of us have, the one thing about dogs that I would say is their downside is they don't live as long as we do. And so sometimes we have lost them and maybe not ready to get another one because it's so hard to go through that. So maybe you might have some toys or supplies sitting around that you want to donate. So pet supplies, school supplies, tools. I mean, you name it, pretty much everything. We've got Red Racks, which supports the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans. City Thrifts, Sleepyhead Beds is going to be taking those mattresses that are still in good condition. Children of incarcerated parents, Regal Health and Wellness. These are both small organizations, which is another reason we started Reuseful. Was, everybody's heard of Big Brothers Big Sisters, for instance, who's also participating, but we have a lot of really dedicated people who start nonprofit organizations and need that support as well. First United Methodist Medical Closet. So maybe you had a loved one who had some medical equipment, and they either no longer need it, or they've lost them, and are looking for a way to pay it forward with those items. You can bring those as well to a dumpster day. Healing House helps people who are recovering from substance abuse, which, as we know, is an epidemic in our um, in our country. I mentioned Big Brothers Big Sisters. Circle KC was founded by a 10-year-old girl, and they do this thing called Grandparents Closet, and they go around the community and bring the items that have been donated, and stage them in a way that people can kind of shop in that venue. And then we all probably have more books lying around than then we've read them. We don't know what to do with them. So Friends of Johnson County Library will be there as well to take your books. Um, so um, so back to our questions here. The Sinister Six. So one of the things um, that they covered in in the Swedish gentle art of Swedish death cleaning is to maybe take one of the things that's kind of representative of maybe a connection to a loved one. So instead of those 12 Afghans that you got from your grandma, you save one. You can also create boxes of those items and give them maybe to grandchildren or other relatives, so you can pass those things to someone else so you still kind of have that connection, or you're helping them build that connection that you don't want to lose. I think just really focused on the fact that you know, yeah, so many quilts, same. The fact that we if something's sitting in a box or on a shelf and it's not being used in the way that it was originally intended, it's really that sunk cost is you're not actually implementing it in the way that it's supposed to be used. And so even that money that you've spent, it's not actually um, doing its job. And so, letting it go and giving it to someone else is just a way to make sure that that thing that has a purpose is going to really um, make that purpose come to life. So, what else? Identity. If you have a collection of shot glasses or thimbles or whatever it is, right? You can definitely keep a smaller collection of that, and then maybe move them along. Maybe there's someone else who really enjoyed that collection, and you can kind of distribute it out. So sometimes you can create a shadow box. So maybe you can take a snippet of something, and you can kind of take pieces and put it in a shadow box, and then it's not like the bigger items, but it's the smaller ones that you can then still have those memories, but you're shrinking their footprint. So those are some ways to get rid of those things. And I think that it's really like what are some of the few things that are still going to keep me connected, but I don't need 50 things. I can have two or three things instead, and I can still look at those two or three things and remember my grandmother or my beloved aunt or whomever it might be. I hope
Well,
that's helpful.
just to kind of build on what Leslie is saying, because I know those things here, but I have a hard time knowing them here a little bit. But the one thing that has resonated with me in that whole idea is the idea that if you have something and you're keeping it because it belonged to a loved one, because it connects you to someone that you care about or cared about, and you're storing it in the basement in a box, or it's in the top of a closet, or you haven't seen it in 6 years or whatever, it's not really being honored, and you're not honoring the legacy of that person when you do it that way. And I speak because I have a basement full of that stuff for my folks. I'm an only child, so I have a bunch of that stuff. And so it's really hard to get from here to here, but you just got to keep that in your mind as you do it. And slowly but surely, I'm getting there, but it is a hard process. Don't just because we say it like, oh, you just do this. We know it's not easy.
Yeah, and I think that there are certainly we might know that here, but we might need somebody. So, one other tip that you might think about is having a downsizing buddy. And, you know, they can really help be a little bit more objective. And even if it's nothing but helping you pass the time in a more enjoyable way, where they just come over and you chat while you do this process, um, that can be helpful. And then also, when when you think about needing help, letting go of things, just saying like, what do you think? What do you think? Should I keep it? And somebody else, if you empower them to say, I really need you to help me, narrow these things down, they may be like, well, that's the, third quilt that you've held up. Do you need all three? Or, which one's your favorite? Which one has the most sentimental value to you? And then think about somebody like Sleepyhead Beds, where they're providing bedding to kids who don't have their own bed, and thinking about how then that is going to be a way to really pay that forward. And Terry, I love that point, and helping with love, right? Like somebody doesn't have to be harsh and say, you don't need that junk. I mean, it doesn't have to be painful. But when you're looking at the again, this third, sixth, 12th, however many quilts that somebody finds, and and I'm picking on Diane, but we're all guilty of this stuff because we have that connection, and we love that person, we miss them, and it feels like getting rid of that item that we got from them is sort of like um, forgetting them. But you can't forget somebody. You're just because you gave away one of the or 12 of the quilts that they gave you and you kept one, those are still memories you have. And if you can keep that one or two items that help keep you connected in your heart with them, then you are freeing those items to do their job. And also as Terry mentions, not burdening your kids so that they have to do that downsizing and that clearing out, because the more you do ahead of time, the more you can make sure that stuff goes to a place that's important to you.
Well, and that's kind of takes us back to where we started, which was, don't bury people in your stuff. And I think Terry has a great point of involving, and I think this is a point in the workshop that ARP is going to do as well, is one of the things is to involve the rest of the family in your decluttering. Give those legacy items to the people you want them to go to now, and make sure that they actually want them, because you don't want to give people things that they aren't going to know what to do with. The same way that I have, I think it's 19 quilts, right? So I love them. They're beautiful and I know who made them, but I don't need 19 of them. So, involving others in it helps make it easier for you, and also ensures that things will go where you want them to go, and that those people are going to love and appreciate what you give them. So we're back to not burying, everybody. And we are also at 5 minutes to the hour. So we should wrap it up. Do you think? And look, there's one more question, maybe? Oh, Jan.
Yeah. Helps just having another person say, you won't die if you give them yeah, right. Especially as Diane said, like if you've had these items in a box in your basement, honestly, in your closet, in your spare bedroom, you haven't been using them anyway, right? They haven't been bringing you value. So you might as well give them to someone who will see value in them. And I think back to the question about tips how to do this. I think just tapping into those resources that AARP has on downsizing, whether that's that workshop or maybe some of the other online resources you have. I don't know, Diane, if you want to just take us out with that.
Well, and I will say our downsizing stuff, downsizing and decluttering is mostly in person for right now. Now we have lots of good stuff on fraud at aarp.org/fraud. You can absolutely find more about our workshop. It's not posted yet because you're the first to know about it. There's going to be an email going out about it, but it'll also be on aarp.org/Kansas City. We're real easy to find. And that should be up by Monday, and people can register for that. It'll be March 29th, which is a Friday, because that's when our parking lot is the least full. So you'll have a place to park. But it incorporates a lot of those tips about how to do the decluttering and downsizing. Even if you're not going to downsize, it will help you declutter. And it has an excerpt from the book that I will print off that you can have as kind of a checklist to go along. And Terry, we are at 92nd and Ward Parkway. So we're just south of Ward Parkway Mall. And we border the back lot of Rockhurst, if that helps anybody, if they know where Rockhurst School is. Anyway, so we are looking forward to doing that workshop and then kind of leading into, in a week from then, doing Undumpster Day with Reuseful. So it kind of builds that cycle. And Reuseful is going to do not just one Undumpster Day. We're going to have two more for going on throughout the year. So if you can't get all your decluttering done by April 6th, because I can't, I don't think you probably will either if you're anything like me, it'll take some time. We'll have a couple more chances to do this. And yes, Nancy, there will be one north of the river, I believe.
That's true. Yes, that is true. All right. Well, we are almost at time, and this has just been so much fun talking about how to make sure your stuff gets the life it deserves and you get the space you deserve. So thank you for being here, and stay tuned for more information about how to make sure you have a safe and enjoyable place to live.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.